Before we introduce Gene, though, I wanted to talk about Gene is the economic development guy for. Thank you very much. It sounded like I was in a can there. Is the economic development commissioner on the Escambia County Commission. So one of the big things, and we could talk about a lot of these different projects that we've been through over the past years with Gene. He's always involved, but one of the big ones that's happened that's taken 20 years to develop is the Outlying Field 8 project, and Gene was integral to our being able to land that project. So my partner on that project from a chamber perspective, and even after we got into the sunshine from just two private citizens perspective, was Mr. Jim Cronley. And I want Jim to just give you a quick synopsis of why it's so important that folks like Gene Valentino are in office and that they understand economic development in these sorts of projects. So, Jim.
If I was so smart, we wouldn't be working on this for 20 years. But it's that important. It keeps coming around. We've got our third opportunity, and it looks like with the county's help, and talk about a leap of faith, those 5 county commissioners have gone over into Santa Rosa County with an interlocal agreement, and they have bought 600 acres of land that we're going to develop for the Navy, and swap them that developed site for Outlying Field 8. And it is, my charge lately has been to get everybody that's got mineral rights on that 600 acres to agree to give up their surface rights, not their mineral rights. And I met with a lawyer today, and there was 2 families that somebody had died, and they didn't have any money or anything, so they didn't have a will, they didn't have anything, and so we're having to probate those estates. And I met with a lawyer today, and we hope that will be able to be done by the end of the month. Parallel to that is Donovan Engineering is doing all the design work on what we will build for the Navy, and that's starting to work its way upstream, and it's looking good. One of the reasons it's looking good is because we did our homework, and we had gone through all of this stuff informally with the Navy. The good part about it is the Navy approached us. It wasn't our idea, it was theirs. And so they've got some ownership in this thing, and they're proud of it, and they need it too for the training mission. It will help Escambia County that we get Outlying Field 8 for a much, much needed commerce park. It will help Santa Rosa County because we're going to help them brack-proof Whiting Field, which contributes 1/3 of the economy of Santa Rosa County. It's too important to lose, and so we're hand in hand with them. They understand it. We've got their full support, and thanks to Gene's leadership, the county's done everything we've asked them to do, and Gene, we appreciate it very much.
We really do, Gene. That's one economic development project. Now, granted, that's a big one. If you can just cut that back just a little bit for me. That's a big one. That's one that's been happening for 20 years now. And it's funny, 3 years ago I got involved with Jim, and he says, man, this thing's been going on for 20 years. Let's see if we can make it happen this time. I think we about got it, Jim. I think it's there. So that's huge. There's others. There's a lot of others. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Gene, because I know you want to talk about economic development. That's what he likes. And that's what we need in Pensacola. But to introduce Gene, I have a good friend and everybody's buddy in Pensacola, John Griffin. Before I do that, I'd like to recognize any elected officials. I saw Councilman Andy Terhar here, Councilman Charles Bear. Who are the elected officials in the room? Okay. I see Michelle Bowen back there. She's an elected official. Okay. John Griffin to introduce Commissioner Gene Valentino.
Thank you. Before I start, let's give these guys that are up here picking this 6th string. give them a hand. Damien, I don't know if you ever heard this guy flat pick, but he's great right here.
He's got a Taylor. He's got a Taylor to play right there.
Yeah.
So,
My name is John Griffin, and it's my pleasure to introduce County Commissioner for 8 years, Gene Valentino, and for the next 4 years, Gene Valentino.
here.
You know, I've known Gene for a long time, and he has the energy and the passion that we need in the County Commission. You may not always agree with him, and I think that's okay with Gene a lot of times, but it is really hard to find somebody with that kind of energy who really, he goes to bed at night thinking what's best for people in Escambia County. And not just Escambia County, but Northwest Florida. One of the ways that I judge whether I'm going to vote for elected officials or not is whether or not they need the money. And Gene does not need the money, I can tell you that, to serve on the county commission. He does it for the love of it. He does it because he's passionate, and he does it simply because he wants to make this a better place. Would you welcome my friend Gene Valentino?
First, let me start by thanking Damian Lamb and his Tracy? Larry. Thank you for the entertainment. I'd like to thank the restaurant and certainly Baskerville and Donovan, the Mr. and Mrs. Donovan, Freddie Donovan Jr. I'd like to thank all of you. And I refer to it as my daytime wife and my nighttime wife. Hidden in the crowd back there is Dean Kirshner, my aide, who's been with me for 8 years. Dean, just wave your hand. It's an old saying, a person is known by the company he keeps, and I'm a lucky guy to have him at my side. To all my campaign affiliates and campaign folks here, I can't tell you how grateful I am for your commitment to a campaign like this. But the nighttime wife has been the lifetime wife who's been with me through thick and thin. She's the woman who stood with me when many didn't. And I'm forever grateful, Maureen. We came to town about 22 years ago, October 1st, 1992, and we had a passion and love for this community. We also left about 36 inches of snow, and I can tell you the decision was pretty easy. But one of the greatest things is I always wanted to do good for the community in this area, and sometimes I regret I could have done things differently. I think, there's an old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans, right? And that's what I had to learn. So, and there's another expression I've learned. Before I point the finger at a problem or point the finger at you and get dial up, I've got to remember there's at least 3 fingers pointed back at me. So I better do my own inventory first. And I better get it right here and here. I better make sure my heart's in the right place, to activate my mind into the right place. Maureen and I are going to die here. We'll see the world, but this is America's best kept secret, Pensacola, Florida. Yeah. And this is where we want to go. And I'm so grateful. I've gotten to know so many of you over the years. We deliberated long and hard about a 3rd term as commissioner. Most people are in therapy after the 2nd term, but we're going to give it one more shot. And it doesn't matter who the competition or the opposition is. What matters is we remain on target and we remain focused. There's nothing about this campaign that's any different than the last campaign. What a grateful thing it was to have gotten to know George Stewart, my former opponent, who worked with me in the last 15 months to get more done for Escambia County than the whole lot of them put together in the 6 years prior. I'd ask for a moment of silence for George. He's a man I regret I didn't get to become friends with sooner in life, but is a man who's worked diligently for all of us. And he too, like me, have made our mistakes along the way. But you know, who's perfect here? Does anybody else want to live in a glass house and put their whole inventory out for exposure? We're all accountable. So just a moment of silence for George, if you would. Thank you. You know, economic development is the area that I think is probably the most, it's water in the desert for Escambia County. It's not really your fault it didn't come sooner. The problem is we're in a structure of government called home rule that really prevented a lot of the economic elasticity that we needed to employ to get certain things underway. But there was, when we got to know a lot of the good leaders, the Donovans, the Cromleys, the Tahars, and the rest of you in town who just want to make a good living and grow your idea in this community, all you wanted was a few good people to be associated with. These issues we have difficulty with are not complex. The issue has to do with bad behavior. It's more often the way we behave, not the complexity of the issue that stops us from growing. Shall we put our egos and personalities on the shelf and focus on principles? Let the principles of what we're trying to do come through for all of us first, and let us focus on that to make this a better place. Oh, by the way, the place is a community of 300,000 people. It's not about 300,000 people today. It's about the 600,000 people tomorrow. And are we building it to make sure we're building it right for 600,000 people tomorrow, not the 300,000 people today? Are we doing it right? And so when we talk about infrastructure or anything in the infrastructure, water, sewer, our structure of government and the way we communicate with each other, is it operating efficiently? STS Aerospace, amidst all the confusion, was something that Mayor Ashton Hayward and I finally shook hands on 3 days ago. There will be $8 million distributed to the city, but we wanted to make sure we got it right. And that's what happened. So the city council's about to vote on it. The terms and conditions are in place. It'll come to the county commission next Thursday for final adoption. And STS Aerospace, representing at least 300 jobs, will be underway within the months ahead. So that's real good news. But it's only the beginning. You know, it was only 10 years ago we had this call center that no one wanted to talk about called Navy Federal Credit Union. And the blueprints come into George Tewart's office by the gentleman that preceded Cutler Dawson, whose name escapes me. And George sits down with the guy and says, 150 jobs? Well, okay, let's see what you can do. It turns out they bought the entire platted area over there, not just a limited number of acres. They're hitting on 5,000 jobs today. They're targeted and committed to 10,000 jobs by the year 2017, but it was only 150 jobs at the time. Well, it's only 300 jobs with STS Aerospace. And last December, when we were in Hamburg, Germany, they were saying, hey, Commissioner, what are you doing about education? What are you doing about the arts, culture, and entertainment? What's the quality of life like in Escambia County and the surrounding region? If we're going to be serious about bringing thousands of jobs to the area, what are you going to do to incentivize me to come? Well, what do I need to do to incentivize you to come? So we started listening. We had two educational systems, the university and our state system, Pensacola State College and the University of West Florida, at our side when about 14 of us went there to Hamburg, Germany last December. And one of the things they asked was, what's the quality of your educational system? How fast are you going to grow your infrastructure? They didn't ask, for $50 million to incentivize economic development. They knew that a $160 million aircraft currently being built in Toulouse, France, and China would be about $130 million in Mobile. What they wanted was the proximity of the subcontract vendor network. And Dr. Hans Weber said to me, Gene, we're going to put our primary folks in a 100-mile radius around Brookley Field, Mobile. Well, take your compass and do the little circle on the map. That's 100% of Escambia County. And they want their tier one contractors here. Job ranges in the $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 a year salary ranges for starters. Well, the base when I took this job was $23,000 average income in this community just 8 years ago. Navy Federal Credit Union has already jumped that average up, and I submit to you it's going to go even higher once we get some of these subcontractors of Airbus here. We're going to need more hotels. We're going to need more quality of life accoutrements, I'd say, enhancements to justify these people living in and around this area. What about a beltway around the greater Pensacola area like some of the bigger communities? That's underway right now. What about additional manufacturing jobs? Let's not rely solely on Airbus. Let's tell Airbus, hey Airbus, we just did a deal with STS Aerospace. You know, you're not the only game in town. So we're not going to be held hostage when we develop our strategy, where we end up saying, oh my words, if we lose this industry class to the community, the whole house of cards falls. No way. An effective economic strategy is one of diversity. It's a mix of use and structure in the community. So God forbid one of those niches fails, the whole house of cards doesn't fail. You still go home that night and eat. You still have an income. You may have lost a little money from that segment in the community, but the whole house of cards didn't fail. And that's the failing in other communities, when they put too much weight on one niche. And that is to say, nothing bad about our military. The military is the anchor and the base in this community. San Diego did it. They grew the rest of the community 14 to 18%. The military, even during sequestration, was held the same or went up 4% more. Let's do the same. You got another hour?
Yeah. You're on a roll. Keep going. You're on a roll.
Y'all, I want y'all to know that Senator Greg Evers sends his regrets, and he told me to tell you that he's sorry he wasn't here to hear the Gene Valentino, the long soliloquy that Gene usually has.
I got 3 more chapters of Moby Dick and I'm done. No, I'm actually done. I just wanted to put this all in context for you. We are at the pivot, we are at the cornerstone of a paradigm shift of change. We have agreed as a community, I've seen it in all of you. We're putting self-serving attitudes on the shelf and are thinking about the greater good of the community. Oh, by the way, when you do that, your pocket gets enriched as well. And so that's the magic. I thank you all for supporting me. I want to stay here until we die. I hope whatever our relationships have become with you grow exponentially in the decades ahead. And I really think this is America's best kept secret, Pensacola, Escambia County. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.